directions. So good job, Rocco. I forgot about that. It's 14 steps, and that's the shortened version. This game in Project Wild is probably about 8 or 9 pages, so these are just the highlights. But really what it is it gets kids outside, they get to play a little bit, but they also get to see the impact of changes to their environment. The biggest things that you need to know in this game are the hand signals. I'm gonna go over that. So when you're talking about food, so in number 3, talking about food, I always had them like rub their belly or they can pat their belly. And then when you're talking about water, some people have them cover their mouth. I have them like take a drink from a cup. And then in shelter, this is shelter. Those are the 3 main things you got to know, because those are the habitat components that the deer will be searching for when they play this game. And then you as the teacher, so I always had 3 or 4 classes, I'm sure you might as well, had a data chart for each of the classes. And as they go through your first few rounds, there is no human impact. It is a perfect, serene environment, clean, everything's great for these deer, and you'll see the population increase and increase each year. The population increases by deer meeting its the need that it has, and then it can reproduce basically, and then you get a second deer. Then I always tell them, I'm going to go influence your environment. I'm going to have an impact on your environment. It could be a positive, it could be a negative. All of these are negative impacts. In round 6, you can see that's where you have 2 polluted water. Here's the crazy part though for kids. This is clean water, this is food, you rub your belly, and this is shelter, right? So here's polluted water. You ready? It looks just the same because there's not a big old sign sitting out that says, hey, I'm polluted water, don't drink me, dear. And then when you get to habitat destruction looks like this. Just exactly like shelter. It looks exactly the same. I always tell the kids, don't tip them off. If you are habitat destruction, don't tip them off. Don't tell them that you're habitat destruction, because we don't want them to know until they have selected it. And then that's when they're in an area that's habitat destruction. That's how you start seeing a lot of the population change. And then we have to have a very serious talk about hunters, because hunters, the natural thing that people think of when making a symbol for a hunter is not the symbol we use in this game. The symbol we use in this game for hunters is this: rub in the belly. They have laid a food trap. And I always tell them, if I see anything that remotely sounds like, looks like, or could possibly be taken as a weapon, you are done for the game. You can sit out and you can watch. Nobody wants to be out of the game. Like literally after 2 rounds, they're hooked. We can go through 10 rounds. Most of the time we never zero out. We always have 2 or 3 deer at least when we get there. But we get through round 10 and then I have them begging me, like, can we just play just one more round, just one more round? And I've even had years where we go out to recess and then a giant game of oh deer breaks out with somebody else leading it. Like I don't even have to lead it, and they continue to play and continue to monitor the impacts of population. They got sidewalk chalk one year and started collecting data. And I was like, well, this is something that has never happened before. And it's super exciting that they're choosing to learn during recess. But anyway, after they get this information and you play the game, this is where they get to practice some of those additional skills, like creating a graph of some sort. Bar graphs tend to work the best, but I've had kiddos, or line graphs, have kiddos make all different kinds of graphs. We talk about labeling X and Y axis. Depending on what time of year you do this in math, they've talked about coordinate points. So you can make some math connections and do some coordinate points on there. And then I always make sure they title the graph. Like that's the other big piece. And so then the rubric's already on there clearly for them to assess their own learning. And then if you wanted to take a grade, this is also something that could grab you a formative grade. And then there are 4 reflection questions at the end to have kiddos answer, to kind of do a little data analysis there. So that's one of the things that you can do. It takes about 2 or 3 days. You can play several rounds if you wanted to. You could continue on past the 10 rounds and see what happens. So just one thing I wanted to share that I think would be a fantastic connection for kiddos heading into 6th grade.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It does sound like a lot of fun.
So much fun. And they don't even know they're learning. And those are my favorite kind.
Yeah, you gotta trick them. Does anyone else like to share? Well, I can share. I had put in some stuff like that. So the things I had put in, this was actually a session that I attended at CAST a couple of years ago. So they just showed you how to use Google Slides to make animations of vocabulary. So I put the Force a Copy link into the document. And basically, if you think about like, you've had kids make like a flip book to make like an animation. So it's basically doing the same thing that you would do like that, but just in a Google slide. So what I have done with other schools when they've, they got kids who can maybe work a little bit independently. But as an end of the year project, it's actually kind of fun to do because you let the kids pick a vocabulary word that they're really interested in. And then they basically just go through and they make a flip book. And then when you go to share and you publish it to the web, there's two options that you can make. So you can start it as soon as the player loads and then restart it so you just click those two buttons. And actually, I'm also going to default it to auto advance every second. So basically, you create slides and then you incrementally move these pieces around the slides. And then when you hit publish, you can take that. And then even as you go into the URL, so I'll paste it into there. So that 1000, that's the 1 second. So that means it'll auto advance the slide every second. But even sometimes it's too choppy because it's like 1 Mississippi 2. So if you just take that last number and chop it down by a 0, so that's like 1/10 of a second. And when you hit enter, it will automatically play. So I made this very quick animation showing the Earth's tilt and how it causes seasons, and when the summer in the northern hemisphere, it's winter. And if it's too fast, you can go through and manipulate that URL again and change the time so it goes a little bit slower, it goes a little bit faster. But having the kids like unleashing their creativity into this platform, into this format, it's always really, really funny. Like when they do things like herbivore and carnivore, because you see the giraffe eating, then the lion shows up on the side of the screen, and then they all just start like kind of moving closer together and they're chasing each other, and the kids get really creative with it. So this is, like I said, it's a project. And then also you can see the minutia of doing it. So that simple animation was 34 slides. So it's a lot. It's kind of like a lot of work to do to make like this simple little thing. But like I said, if you just kind of throw out your vocabulary words for the year and let them pick like the thing that they're kind of interested in or whatever they think they can make kind of a animation, and then you kind of create a little digital glossary, like you're about like a digital word wall or a digital like index basically of all this vocabulary, and then you keep it forever. So then you can use it next year with the kids and they can make their own, or they can, tweak them however they want, make them funnier or whatever. So that was always something I enjoyed doing. Like I said, I saw it was a presentation at CAST, and I brought it back to a lot of the campuses I was working at, and the kids, like I said, for kids who can kind of think abstractly and in that creative way, it's really fun for them to kind of pour out into this medium. And then the other thing that I had just mentioned, where I know a lot of people know about these, but the PhET simulations, a lot of people were talking about like how they like to do STEM projects at this time of year, which is, I think, a great way to spend your time. But if you just have the digital, maybe if you don't have materials, if you don't know about PhET is an amazing resource. It's HTML5, so it works on every type of device. And I just went ahead and filtered out all the science and for elementary. So these are all the simulations that they have for elementary. Kids can shoot things out of a cannon. They can mess with bending light through reflection, balancing things, skate park, building the circuits. But the kids I've worked with, the circuit builder is actually very helpful for them building series of parallel circuits to create simulations. So yeah, so for end of the year stuff, you could even have them build a simulation and then take one of the vocabulary words and make the animation from it. So they could kind of get to do both of those. So those were two ideas that I had that I've used in the past for this kind of time of year. And it's, like I said, it's a little more free. The kids are just kind of doing stuff independently, but it's still engaging and it's still kind of connected to our content. So yeah.
Rocco, we've used the stop motion animation slides for life cycles, which is a really fun one too, but I hadn't thought about using it for other vocabulary. I love that connection.
Mm-hmm.
When I did something similar, we were an iPad school district, and I took an Apple teacher thing where we did animated GIFs in Keynote. And so we still produced some kind of kind of like this, where it was an image that was playing, and I ended up printing out QR codes for each that linked to it. Sorry, if this makes sense. Had them upload them, I put them in Google Drive, and then I made QR codes for each of them, and then kind of plastered them around the halls. And there's a lot of different extensions you could do. You could be like, put them all over the school, and then you go on a scavenger hunt and try to identify, match the word, or put a number with the QR code and write what vocabulary word you think it is. And they're moving, assuming it's okay to move in the halls. But, you know, just so they're not stuck in your room, or just so that it's out like, hey, what's this? It was made by so-and-so. So just kind of have something fun. It's kind of how I tried to add on to it, to not just keep it in my room, but show off cool ideas that the kids were doing, that was pretty creative. So it's an idea for that.
One other idea that we did not, it's not on that list, but it's free like the rest of it. The biggest fear of fifth grade students going to middle school is lockers and locks. At least that is in my district. That was a panic of theirs, to be able to open their locker and with the lock in time to get to their next passing period. So I went to Walmart and I bought a class set of padlocks, and we practiced padlocks every day for the last 2 weeks of school. And I am telling you, my kiddos told me when we would go back and see, like we would do our tours in the spring, they would all come running. They're like, we were the best at locks, Mrs. Suarez. And I was like, oh, thank goodness. And they had to share with all of their students coming from all the schools. They're like, let me help you with your lock. Like they would get the lock. So that is free. It is not science related, but man, it relieved a lot of stress for my kids to know that they were going to be proficient at using a lock for their gym locker and their locker at school.
Well, I will go ahead and jump in. So I have a couple of things that we did this semester. And then, of course, one thing that I actually did when I was in the classroom years ago, I'll say it that way. So during the annular eclipse, UHCL had this opportunity to work with Space Center Houston, which is right up the street from us. And let me share screen if that's okay. Where did it go? There we go. All right. And I think you all can see my screen okay. So we put together a few items dealing with bracelets because we needed something that was really quick. So for instance, if you're having a STEM family night now during the end of the year, or you're wanting some quick fun things to do, I was trying to think of some really quick items that had more of a annular eclipse theme that we could do. And so what you're seeing here is actually 2 projects on the front part of this document, and then a third project dealing specifically with moon phases. I am going to stop sharing really quickly. Let's see here, figure that out. Where did it go? Oh, there we go. Stop share, because I think the biggest takeaway is you can see from the density of the instructions that there's a lot of moving parts to this, but I want you to just realize one little baggie like this is all you really need for projects 1 and 2. Project 3 requires, instead of all of these beads that you're seeing here on screen, you need actually all white beads. And I think 1 black bead that you would then color with the Sharpie marker. So this is just a take, I'll say a cheaper version on some of the solar system bracelets that you've seen out there, and an adaptation of those types of projects that actually require more, I would say, more expensive types of beads. We then have, I'll go back to sharing my screen here. I would like to say one of the more foundational projects that actually coincide with an understanding of what's actually happening during a solar eclipse. So we all might be familiar with the National Informal STEM Educator Network, but they have a group of activities that I think became really popular during the eclipse season, specifically for younger kids. So exploring Earth's Bears Shadows. You can actually find the read aloud for this particular book, Moon's Shadow, on the web. And so if you have a large Promethean board or touchscreen board in your classroom, this is something that you can create more of an interactive opportunity with your kiddos, as far as sharing and showing the science behind shadows, and of course, eventually building up to how this foundational information impacts our learning with respect to moon phases. And then the last project, as I thought about putting something together, comes from something that I did years and years ago. And so I remember having a lot of fun, because usually around this time of the year, field day is something that typically happens. The kids are always going outside for a variety of reasons. We're trying to get them outside before it gets too hot to go outside. And so I just have to say, with the caveat, I've done this activity outside, and you need like a small football field if you want to do the longer version. But I was very pleased to note that there is a shorter version here that this author put together. I've even done and searched on the web for activities that allow to use sports equipment for the various sizes of the planets, like golf balls versus a soccer ball. And then, of course, it gets even fun. We always want a reason to have food in our classrooms, right? So I've seen a similar activity that you can always search for that deals with fruit. And so imagine a watermelon, which I know is, the wrong shape, but depending on, what type of watermelon you choose, but large fruit or different size fruits to simulate sizes of planets. That can be a lot of fun during this time of the year. So my theme was sort of kind of earth science related, earth and space science related. Hope it brings some of you all some joy. And yeah, best word of advice if you're going to do the toilet paper activity: if you move it indoors, say like a gym, you might be more successful. I remember doing it outside, and you do want to have things that will anchor the toilet paper down, which is one of the reasons why I said you may want to mesh this particular activity, which is all about toilet paper, with another activity which gets in the size of the planets. That way you'll have a reason to have balls out there to ground or anchor the toilet paper from flying away. So with that, I'll hand it off to the next person.
I can share. Okay, so for us here in A-Leaf, we do a whole lot of engineering design challenges throughout the year, and then we cap it off with a PBL connection like at the end of the year. So we do something as simple as the toothpick puzzler as a design challenge, to as complex as designing an alarm system using a makey-makey. But for the end of the year, this is what I'm sharing. So let me share my screen. If I can find where to share my screen. Can somebody pull it up for me? For some reason, I don't have the link or the button. Thank you.
Rocco's got you.
Thank you so much.
Which one?
You
Jillian?
can just do the PowerPoint slide, like STEM challenge, toothpick
The
puzzlers.
toothpick puzzlers. Gotcha.
Yep. If we can just straight to slide 5. And basically, this is really just a very, very simple design challenge. And all you need is like 17 pieces of toothpick and kids like following directions or attending to the challenge. So right there is the challenge. And then in page 6 or slide 6, it talks to you about like, the criteria, and you just follow the steps like throughout the slide. You also have the student answer document and then the key as well, linked on the file.
Okay,
So there you go.
very cool.
So it's very, very simple.
I like this. It's like, yeah, puzzles, materials, so simple.
Thank you.
That's cool.
Yeah, I like that. You say you do a lot of these types of activities, or this is just one that you like to do?
This is one of the many simple STEM activities that we do, or engineering design challenge that we do, because there are, well, beliefs and perceptions about STEM being very complex. but we try to really introduce the idea of creative problem solving, of working together in a very, very simple and using a very, very simple activity. So we do this throughout the year, and we really have a whole lot going on as part of our like a Unit 5 with STEM and PBL connections.
Very cool.
Thanks for sharing the whole slide deck too, Jolene. I appreciate like the thought leading up to that.
Yes, ma'am. And if you have any questions, just let me know.
Guess I'll share next because who's left. So a couple of years ago at CAST, I got a picture perfect STEM and I wrote a grant to get it. And I know it's been around a while, but I do like the fact of in elementary school using a book to then introduce a lesson and like a 5E, like a STEM lesson. Didn't get to a chance to use it as much as I wanted to, but the one I have listed there, the Orion in the Dark, is just a cute, it was a cute book about light and things. And it ended up that we walked through making paper circuits, which is really easy to, there's a link to one there. I just like Googled paper circuits. So, but that does require supplies, but once you buy them, you have a lot of it if you buy enough. So that ended up taking a long time, and students can get creative. You can expand it for 5th grade to be more creative, like not set as many limitations. So instead of saying you're making a card, say you can make whatever you want, or here's some cardboard, or just different things like that. But this book was a start for that. The Picture Perfect STEM has like a 5E lesson, so you can really drag it out a really long time. I did it during like an enrichment time because I had to entertain them somehow. What is the other one that's listed there? Did it say Rosie? Oh,
I clicked on
that's the
the
free one. So if you look
the
at
free ones,
Balloon
yeah.
Car Design Challenge. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that one. I just know she has good stuff that's free, that's STEM challenges. So that's what that is. I
Gotcha.
logged in for free with like Google, and you can get some neat ideas from there without having to pay for it. And it's good. She does a good job, like free stuff. Okay. So this is the sample of the book, and it has the Picture Perfect STEM, and it has a balloon car. It does require some materials, but I don't know, as a science teacher, I always hoarded things. So by this time of year, I had a lot of piles of random things, like maybe you might have these around. But so this one goes through one of the lessons. This is what explaining, like you can stretch, it has it all, the lesson plan already for you. So even if you don't have a good science background, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know anything about cars moving or anything, it has all the questions to ask. I liked it because I could, and it had worksheets you could print off, right? So it's very like, you can take it and run with it, or you can just be very prescriptive, like I'm going to do exactly what it says. So that's what I kind of like about these resources. I have not done that one in particular, but that was the sample that's on NSTA. So it had a whole sample on there. But if you search around, you can find what books they have. But a lot of these, like this Rosie, Rosie Revere Engineer, I mean, your library probably has that. It's I feel like that one's been around a while. So yeah, on that side. But I like how it breaks it down into SCPs, Inventor's Secret. So yeah, there's different levels of books. And my last one doesn't have any, sorry, what now?
I was saying, isn't that on the new 5th grade TEK specifically about the balloon car, or is it the balloon on a string in the new 5th grade TEK? Where they talk about the force TEK, right?
Yeah.
Like as an example to do.
Yeah, like they specifically named that investigation as what kids should be exploring to investigate. Is that the balance and unbalanced forces, or it's the other thing?
But my question is, what about all the latex allergy? Like balloons aren't allowed on most of my campuses.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That'll be interesting if it's in the TEKs then. How do you work? Ugh.
Wow.
More cars and ramp surfaces and ramp heights. Sorry.
I don't know that peanuts would be a better option, Rocco.
Peanut flingers.
Could you do like little parachutes or something out of paper?
Well, the idea is you blow them up and attach them to the straw, I think, and then release it. And so it's the air pressure moving the straw. I think that was one of the labs that was in the curriculum we adopted, and we were like, oh, can't do that. What's another option? So I looked at non-latex balloons, and I can't afford those. So
Yeah.
Oh, is it so
I don't know what the plan is. We don't have a plan yet. I have a plan that's a future me problem.
But,
I will
but that
tackle
would
that
be,
next week.
you said something about 5th grade, but that reminds me of like Newton's third law, right?
Right.
Maybe like okay.
The last one I have listed there doesn't have anything. It honestly was my favorite thing to do as a 5th grade science teacher at the end of the year because it still made me like my students a little bit when they were driving me nuts. And this sounds really crazy, but it worked for us, is we would allow students to make a proposal to bring in a demonstration. So it couldn't have fire, it couldn't be any sharp objects or anything like that. But during the year, sometimes students would be like, hey, can I bring this science kit? It's so cool. Can I show everybody? And so at the end of the year, I gave them the opportunity to like tell me what they wanted to do, what supplies they needed, what concepts they were demonstrating from anything. And then that day we would go outside usually because it was sometimes messy. And then they would be the scientists teaching all the students and things like that. That was one of my favorites. And you can stretch that. You can make it as put grades in the grade book or just have fun as you want. Because I would have things from, milk and food coloring to elephant toothpaste of different ones. And I don't know, it was just fun to see. Oh, of course, they want to do like Mentos. But it was just because sometimes they worked, sometimes they didn't. So you could have those kinds of conversations of like, what's going on? What happened here? It was a really busy day, depending on how many classes you see. Depends on how your 5th grade works, but they had to get approval ahead of time, and I don't know. That was always fun. Those were good memories. So I just thought I'd share that.
I like it.
It's cool. Jillian, I saw you drop that teak in the chat.
Yes, because I was just like, wait a minute, did I
5
see that on 5th or 6th? But no, it's 5.7A on the new teaks.
Yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
It used to be 5.6D. I remember that one.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, it is balloon rocket on a string.
But it
Ramp.
does say car on a ramp though.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that's how you get away from the balloons, even though.
I mean, it does say or, you're right, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
little ramp.
And it is a such as, but I still feel like if they've added it there, they tend to stick to around something that's very similar. So I feel like the kids are going to need to at least, maybe that's the teacher demo. I don't know.
In my brain, I had like, wasn't there like a released question where they did the balloon on for some reason in my brain, I feel like we
Yeah,
used it
when it
on
hits the wall, like
yeah, they've
Which
shown
way?
that as a stimulus on the STAR test in the past with the balloon on the string. I don't remember what year, but it's been
Cool.
asked that way.
yeah, on the 22, it was there,
Okay,
the balloon rocket one.
gotcha. Cool. I forgot. So there's another. One year I totally forgot about this. A teacher, when I was coaching, a teacher asked me to come be on the jury. So she had her students. It was like a last week project. They watched the Lorax. You also heard of this? And then they had to take sides, and they had like a courtroom case.
Ooh.
And then they asked people from so I was in the science department as a coach at the time. And so they asked like 2 or 3 of us to come out and hear their arguments. So they spent like a week, and half of one of the groups was arguing for the company, and the other group was arguing on the side of the Lorax, who speaks for the trees. So they had to make their case about who was in, it was like a civil case, and you had they were suing or something, and you had to basically decide who had the best argument about the Lorax speaking for the trees or the big corporation who was chopping them all down to make money. It was very interesting to hear 5th graders give their arguments, and it was kind of a cool little way to wrap up the year. The kids, you could tell one kid wore a little blazer. It was really funny, but they got
That's what I like about using children's literature or trade books, to spark discussions. Really is great. That's one of the ways we also start our PBL is to tie it with a literature. So for designing an alarm system, which we do in the fall with our STEM academies, we do it with Dear Mr. Henshaw. where, the student, I think it's a chapter book, and this kid always gets his lunch stolen. And so he ended up designing an alarm system to protect his lunchbox. And that's how we start our PBL unit for our STEM academies in 4th grade, which we tie to circuits and electricity. So I like
That's
picture
really
perfect
cool.
lesson.
I
Yeah.
love that. Oh my gosh.
That's
That's
cool.
amazing. Yeah.
That's the one that I shared at our what did we have? The STEM spectacular, like that we hosted. Yeah. So
I think
brought
maybe you want to bring that one back again at CAS this year.
Mhm. So like I know our STEM coordinators are looking forward to that because, well, I'm telling them myself. I did ask for them like a week before. I told them like prior to, and then I forgot. And so I was just telling them, oh my God, I need like your actual projects. And so some of them like have already sent it home. And so they said next year, I promise you we will have some. So we'll have them again, like coming back on STEM Spectacular.
That's awesome.
So, Kelly, you got my brain going about the latex allergy. I think that that's so neat. Not that it's neat having an allergy. My son actually has, and he's allergic to everything. And we jokingly say, especially when he was a baby, we were excited that he wasn't allergic to air. But speaking of air, I'm wondering about compressed air cans. Now I know that those they can create another type of issue because of the chemicals that are in them, because of huffing and all that. But what I'm wondering about is from a teacher demonstration standpoint, using the actual compressed can of air and putting that on a string, and having that like flying across the classroom. I started doing a little bit of a search on Google, and no, I don't think anyone has done anything like that. I haven't seen any videos or images out there leaning towards some sort of a standardized activity, but it might be worth a shot investigating. And then I also found something on silly string launchers. That might be something that you might,
Okay.
but I don't know what silly string is made out of. I don't know if that's
That
actual,
latex or not. Yeah.
it's like a plasticky material, but I don't know, just some things to kind of get creative and work through.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to.
And not to burst your bubble, so to say, but also there's that new TEK, the 5.6D, that talks about particles too small to be seen. And that is, do they mention balloons in that one too, specifically?
They sure did.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So I'm wondering about, kind of what we can use as replacement on that one as well.
big balloon lobby behind TEA, I guess, trying to get us to buy all these, trying to get us to buy all these balloons.
I'm certain they're in cahoots with each other.
Yeah, it's Party City. They're lobbyists, they.
And this is being recorded.
We'll cut this part out, right, Kelly?
As long as we don't send it to stat, they won't hear it, but we can.
As is, yeah. We get the
So
raw footage.
I'm so glad we're
No.
having this conversation.
I didn't even consider the balloon thing. No one's brought it up. Like none of my teachers have said anything. It's not really a thing, but
Yeah.
We dove
especially now
into
that
it last week with 5th grade. We're doing supply list for the first quarter, and they kept saying, "Why are balloons on here? Why are balloons on here?" And I was like, "Let's look at the labs." So we saw the labs in Savis and went, "Oh," and then we saw the TEK and went, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
Makes
We don't know
sense,
what
yeah.
Plan B is, so that's when we determined that it was a future us problem and not a last Thursday us problem.
But this is, yes, thank you so much. I didn't really think about it. And we've had this issue before, but it was a very, it was in the context of a STEM camp, which we don't have, a whole lot of kids, and a few teachers only are involved. But when you have like a whole school district, you're like, ooh, we need Plan B.
So what is the mandates around air fresheners? And I'll tell you why, but do you all have is anything coming to mind? Like, for instance, I know that there are school policies. There used to be a big deal when Scentsy first came out. That's what it was. When Scentsy first came out, lots of teachers had them. And then there was lots of policy that came out about you could not have, because it's not open flame, but there's lots of fragrance going on. Is that still in place?
It is in our district. We do not have air fresheners. You can't have, I mean, there's nothing for allergy purposes. There's nothing that can be sprayed in the classroom. You can't have a warmer. You can't have even like the little stick 'em ups or the little, you know, in place ones. They're nada.
There used to be a really simple but effective activity, air freshener. You started in one corner of the room, you spray it, and then during the course of the conversation, raise your hand when you smell it. That, you know, and that's 5-6D. I mean, yeah, but at this, that's why I started with, you know, I started with, you know, what's the policy? Because that would be something else to consider.
Because that would be like your phenomenon. Like, let's anchor it.
There you go. There you go.
Hi, Morgan.
Hi.
I'm wondering, I think we could use, I think what we are allowed to use is, like the oils, the scented oil, but I don't know how to, make that. I don't know if just like dropping a couple drops on a cotton ball will allow the scent to spread while it, large enough in the room. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
technically it could be any, could it be
Mrs.
like
Sparks is thinking like I
Windex?
am. Way to go,
Yeah.
Mrs. Sparks. I'm right there with you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, you could use like Windex, right? Like, I mean, just anything that has some type of like odor that's even approved, like disinfectant spray, that's all approved everywhere since COVID. So like you could just get some disinfectant spray and just kind of do the same type of idea.
Taylor says it works as well. So
Yeah. Essential oils. Put it in boiling water on a
Ooh,
hot plate.
boiling water, that's a good idea.
Genius. And
I
this
like
is why
that.
we are all together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gotta have all the brains working.
Harnessing our collective genius.
I mean, how else do you explain farts? I mean, come on.
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah.
I mean, I guess you could use those, Jennifer.
Well, your boys know all about it.
So, Diwali, I think I'm saying that right. They do the lantern lighting with the paper bags. A candle, paper bag, warm air, it starts to float upward, no latex. So I'm just putting that out there. There's some social studies connections with that as well. There might be some opportunity there.
Or a hot air balloon, just even showing that
Yeah.
in New Mexico where they all take off. It's a good
Yeah.
phenomenon.
All right.
Well, yeah, Ms. Sparks, thank you for jumping in. So we have recorded this session. Ms. Wells, thanks for joining us. Ms. Culver, thank you for joining us. And once again, we are here from TCES as board members, just trying to create these virtual spaces for us to kind of just meet and hash out ideas about latex allergies and diffusers and all the fun things that we've got coming kind of down the pipe. We do have a document, so Kelly just shared that in the chat that is open, so that way you guys can grab all the links to all the things that we've been talking about. And like I said, we did record the meeting as well. We'll put that on YouTube and share the link with our members as well as all the people who registered. So if you have the link, that means you filled out that Google form. We'll send it to all y'all as well. So that way you can have access to all of the documents. We're a little bit past our time, but thank you guys for going. Do you guys have anything? I don't know, you're both on mute, but is there anything specific, any questions you have for us as TCES board members, or anything you'd like to, any ideas if we continue to do this more regularly next school year, you'd like for us to specifically talk about? Yes. So we are definitely going to have lots of meetings talking about new TEKs and ideas and even instructional material, whatever your district is adopting. We've talked about even inviting vendors. We could do breakout groups. So if you went with Savas, McGraw, HMH, STEMscopes, whoever you went with, we could have people from there where you could kind of pick your vendor's brain. And then we've also been talking about, if you guys are planning on going to CAST in San Antonio in November, we're going to have lots of sessions there where we can kind of meet, network, and talk and collaborate there as well. But yeah, our plan for now is to continue to do these, like really starting right off the bat at the beginning of next school year. So yeah, please just kind of be on the lookout through all the social media. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll try to put the messages out through email as well, just to kind of keep you all informed about these events. Okay, with that, I'm going to say everybody have a wonderful rest of your day. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your families, and we'll see you at the next one.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.